not used to being first. You just can't stop. Yeah.
Good to go? Okay. We'll call to order the regular committee of the whole meeting. Can we please begin with roll call?
Councilmember Shemmers. Here. Witt. Here. Seeley.
Here.
Davis. Here. Obrin.
Here.
Mussman.
Here.
Kern.
Here. Police Chief,
Howdy.
you're up, sir.
Howdy. Mayor, City Council, Kevin Gyrion, Chief of Police. First of all, before we do this, it's a mini presentation of our annual report that we submitted to all you. City Clerk gave you all the package. We're going to have it on our Facebook and our website page after this presentation. So I recommend and urge the citizens and council members to read this report because it's a lot of good information. But I hearken in with the first part of this presentation by when you look at those stats and all the information in the annual, I want you to factor in Sir Robert Peel's quote. Sir Robert Peel was considered the forefather of police, modern day policing. And he said the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. So it's not the matter of how many arrests we make or how many actions we take, it's the absence of crime and disorder. And it's hard to quantify, but if the citizens feel safe and we feel like we're improving and we're heading in the right direction, that's good enough for us. Ready? In 2021, the Clinton Police Department celebrated its 132nd year being an organized police department. During this past year, the department focused on upgrading technology to better serve our citizens. We prioritized our community's mental health by partnering with Eastern Iowa Mobile Crisis and by emphasizing the importance of self-initiated field activity by our officers. It is our objective to make Clinton safer every day. These annual reports are presented each year in order to show transparency to the community and the council members, keeping them informed of our actions and our goals. There's our organizational chart. Every year in the annual, we try to present the annual every year at the same time, but because of COVID, we're a little bit behind, so this might be a bigger annual than normal, but take that into consideration. I brought my command staff and my administrative staff just because I like making them uncomfortable. But in seriousness, I wanted to, this PowerPoint is just a brief synopsis, and it doesn't even contain all the statistics of our annual, but I wanted especially the new council members to see a brief thing of what we're doing, what we have been doing since our last annual. And the command staff being here, I want you all to be able to put a face to the name and get to know them. All right, I'm Chief Kevin Gyrion, of course. Our Deputy Chief is James Blower. We have Captain John Davis in the back. He's the Special Operations Commander. We have Captain Patrick Cullen, who's the Patrol Division Commander, and Captain Richard Majeko, who's the CID Commander, Investigations Commander. Other members of our leadership team are Sergeant Joel Wade. He's part of our Community Outreach Sergeant. And our Special Operations Sergeant is Sergeant Matthew Lorenzen. Our SCAT Commanding Sergeant is Brett Schwant. We have 4 shift sergeants. A shift is Sergeant John Melvin. B shift is Sergeant Brett Simmons. C shift is Sergeant Dean Ottens. And D shift is Sergeant Tony Stone. Since our last annual, we've had several promotions. Since the previous annual, our promotions have included captain, sergeants, and corporals. We've had new hires since our last annual. We've hired 7 new officers, which is not a good thing unless we're increasing our manpower, but we're trying to maintain. We lose people all the time for retirements and deployments, and trying to keep our status quo of officers is a challenge every year, but we're working on it. We hired a part-time public service officer. We've hired Sarah Dieters as a data analyst assistant to the chief of police. As I said, 7 new officers, a deputy chief, and Alicia Kane as our senior administrative assistant. Causing most of this hiring was our retirements. We lost a famous Deputy Chief Bill Greenwell to the Sheriff's Department. He's now the Sheriff of Clinton County. We lost Captain Tom Boley to retirement, Corporal Jeff Peasley, Officer Wes Unke, and Mary Kiger, and Captain Joe Raymakers, who's now the Veteran Affairs Officer for Clinton County. So they're moving up at least. Or over. As I said, all of our annuals include accomplished goals and goals that we set for the future annual for the next year. So it's hard to follow because we haven't had successive annuals, but some of our accomplished goals since the last annual, I'll repeat here. We've increased our staffing from 44 to 47 sworn officers. We've added a kiosk in the lobby to enable citizens to file reports easily. We utilize Planet scheduling software that improves our communication in real time with regard to planning vacations, court dates, and schedules. We've improved our drone pilots program by currently having 4 certified pilots. We've gotten new drone equipment wherever we can, with the permission and the financing of the council. We have a new boat that improves our Marine unit. We've upgraded our tasers to Taser 7 CQ. The CQ is designed for close encounters or close quarters. When tasers are deployed, usually it is at a close proximity. That's why we improved our tasers. Additionally, the upgraded tasers are more technologically advanced and are able to download to evidence.com and upload updates more easily. We've also improved our radios this year to Motorola radios, and we've removed the need for in-car radios, which improves radio communication and enhances officer safety. Cuts down on cost, too. We don't have to buy in-car radios anymore. So, again, these incidents and CFS and incident report stats, again, they're all more in-depth in your provided annual report, but we'll go over some highlights if we can. Our calls for service are up due to more self-initiated field activity by our officers. During COVID, we encouraged them to get out more and talk to people, and every time they did this, they would get a call for service, so that threw those numbers up. Incident reports are down because we're improving our police service. So some numbers are skewed because of COVID and some of the restrictions that were implemented. One of the restrictions that was implemented was during COVID, the county prosecutors and the county justice system determined that we should cite and release offenders for crimes much more readily than we do now. So that skewed our numbers in the front end and on the back end too. A lot of questions about our arrests and where they came from and who the perpetrators were and all this. So we tried to include them in our annual report, but some of the highlights are here. We have seen a rise in arrest warrants. This can be attributed, like I said, to the enactment of our SCAT team, as well as doing away with COVID procedures of citing and releasing. Our SCAT team alone accounted for 42% of our drug arrests in Clinton last year. COVID continued to wreak havoc in 2021. Assaults, domestic assaults, use of illegal substances to self-medicate, all increased due to a continued quarantine and self-isolation, affecting our mental health, causing negative behaviors. As a result of this, we tried to develop, and we did develop, a crisis intervention team, including mental health professionals who regularly ride with our officers and go to calls where people are in mental crisis. The police department has changed from issuing citations to placing people in jail for trespassing and shoplifting. Excuse me. We are working with communications and Clinton Fire Department to have calls automatically transferred to helplines for people in need of mental health crisis or people in crisis, which saves a valuable resource. We have partnered with the YWCA in an effort to combat homelessness. Officers go out with the Y staff and make contact with the homeless to get them services. The purpose of this is to collaborate and provide mental health services to those in crisis. This can be done by directing the caller to the crisis line or dispatching mobile crisis response or care coordination. This allows mental health professionals who are trained in handling mental health matters to be the person providing care for a situation, avoiding the police having handle mental health crisis. A huge part of our problems recently is that police are required to handle people in mental health crisis. So we're trying to have the experts handle that with our protection, of course. And it seems to be working. Due to this collaboration, suicide calls are down from 296 to 254, and our partnership with Eastern Iowa Mobile Crisis has contributed to this decline and improvement in all calls of mental health crisis, by the way. As I said, some of the questions about crime stats always come from our illustrious leader or city council. They want to know where our offenders are from, where our victims are, and all that stuff. So we try and quantify that. We have Sarah try and get the statistics up there to figure out how we can best address crime situations. So this is just some of the highlights again. Clinton residents do make up the majority of our arrests by a significant margin, while persons arrested from Illinois or those outside of Clinton make up a lesser number. I believe that the increase in arrests is due to more self-initiated field activity being conducted by our officers and SCAT unit. We have a more proactive department these days. Okay. That's right. They don't like it here no more, which is good.
The criminals don't want to go.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's good.
Good people, they can come.
Yeah. All right, one of the programs I'm happy about is the ABLE. I'll tell you about that right now. In the summer of 2020, as we all know, the anti-police sentiment began gaining momentum. Before this, we were already ahead of this curve, we like to be. The Clinton Police Department recognized that it would be beneficial for officers to receive training on how to intervene in a potentially aggressive situation involving a coworker, a citizen, or another bystander. This training is called ABLE, or Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement. The object of this training is to reduce citizen complaints, disciplinary action, and officer job loss, risk of lawsuits, and unnecessary harms to citizens and officers. Additionally, it is to improve citizen support of law enforcement, improve community and police relations, improve job satisfaction, and improve officer health and wellness. In 2021, we sent 2 officers to become certified ABLE instructors. This year, we have everybody in our department certified in ABLE. So we hope to be that improves our interaction with our community. This is the community crime triangle. I go over this every annual, but I want to reiterate again. We talk about dilapidated buildings. We talk about abandoned properties. We talk about street lighting and cameras. This is the crime triangle. And as you can see, the crime is in the middle. And all 3 sides of the crime triangle indicate a requirement for that crime to occur. You have to have a victim, you have to have an offender, and you have to have a location. If we can affect any one of those 3 sides, we can stop crime. And that's our goal. We try and affect the most effective part or the least costly part. So if we, for example, vehicle thefts where victims leave the keys in their car. If we encourage victims to not leave their keys in their car, that takes away the victim. We get rid of dilapidated buildings or abandoned properties. That takes away the location. And then lastly, which we don't want to do, if we don't have offenders, we don't have to arrest them. But the last part is arrest the offender, and any 3 of those actions stop that crime and eliminate that crime. So that's what we're always aware of, and I want the community to be aware of. Those 3 things we can affect, and that's how we address crime. All right. Now pictures and I'll talk. Our patrol division, we implemented software that notifies the command staff immediately of any use of force or any vehicle pursuit. We require use of force report and vehicle pursuit reports are completed by our officers and reviewed by supervisors for every incident. Our sergeants conduct random body camera reviews weekly and provide feedback to the officers. This is done for quality assurance. We now have an animal protection officer. Our animal protection officer is a sworn police officer of the Clinton Police Department. She is able to assist in patrol when necessary in addition to responding to animal calls. In 2021, our officers responded to 783 animal calls. The APO patrols city streets checking for animals running at large, catching animals in violation of ordinance regulations, and transporting animals to Clinton Humane Society. The APO investigates complaints received from citizens regarding cruelty and neglect to animals. She issues citations in violation of city ordinance with regard to the health, safety, welfare, control, and licensing of animals. She promotes responsible pet ownership in the city. She relays facts of the case and recommendations to the city attorney while attending disposition hearings and court hearings. In 2021, our APO worked on 5 animal neglect cases that all went to trial and all had charges brought against the offender. We even had a video I was going to show you. Recently, our animal protection officer was responding to a complaint investigating the conditions of animals and was rammed by a ram sheep. She got rammed right over the fence. I got this. I got it on body cam. If anybody wants to see it, it's pretty cool. Another effective part of our department is our crime-free housing. Again, go back to the triangle. It affects location. Our crime-free housing has 3 phases: classroom training for landlords, property managers, and maintenance personnel; on-site security evaluation with crime prevention through environmental design, SEPTED, which is security assessments conducted on rental properties to include lighting, landscaping, structure, fortification, controlled access, and parking. We also have tenant training on crime-free housing. We currently have 40 individuals trained, 26 joined as partners, and they represent 420 units. The result of crime-free housing is tenants report feeling safer in their homes and neighborhoods. Tenants who reported feeling somewhat safe increased from 78 to 84%. Tenants who reported feeling very safe to somewhat safe in their neighborhood increased from 74 to 78%. An increase of 13% of people reported to have a deadbolt on their door. The number of tenants that reported never seeing crime increased from 50% to 68%. And the number of tenants that reported never seeing assaults went from 73% to 81%. So it's all improvements, which we work on every day. We also have a DART team, Drug Abuse Response Team. The goal of a DART team is to identify, educate, treat, and prevent further opioid abuse, addictions, and fatalities. This team was created and comprised of members of the Gateway Impact Coalition, Mercy One, Area Substance Abuse Council, Bridgeview, Clinton Fire, and Clinton Police. Our officers now provide people with substance abuse education cards, Area Substance Abuse Council's contact information. All of our officers are trained on DART's purpose. Our CPD webpage has educational posting on the DART program. Our DART officers respond to opioid overdose calls to educate and refer the patient to ASAC, and hold outreach events monthly to educate officers and community. They give out city bus passes to facilitate transportation, and in 2021, our officers had contact with 150 substance abusers. We have 40 officers that are DART certified. Some of our new equipment with money that you've graciously allowed us improved our investigations division. First of all, we had the Matterport camera system. This system is a tool that is becoming much more commonplace as the quest to document and preserve evidence is in its context using a 3D scanner. Much of the crime scene work is identifying, documenting, and collecting evidence. Evidence is not always a physical object or property that may be documented and collected. The absence of something can be powerful evidence. It is one thing to objectively collect vast amounts of data on a scene, but altogether different when it comes to such things as accuracy, speed, and volume. This camera was co-purchased with the Clinton Fire Department. We also have the Arlo Go camera system. The Arlo Go mobile security camera is ideal for security monitoring when in areas with limited or no Wi-Fi access. This camera works wherever there is 3G, 4G, LTE wireless connections. We can get instant motion or sound detection alerts using the free Arlo app. In addition, we watch live or recorded videos from your computer, smartphone, or tablet. We continue the awesome program of school resource officers. Our school resource officers are Corporal Haskell, Officer Sager, and Officer Robertson. Our SROs, I'm not going to say that anymore. Our officers enforce and investigate criminal violations committed by or against students from our school district. They refer juvenile criminal charges to juvenile court services or diversion programs. They are safety advisors for their schools. They provide school presentations on different topics. Our officers are also truancy officers. They work with the county attorney's office to establish interventions. Our SROs participate in community events like Shop with Cops, bike rodeos, Safety Town, lunch with students, walking school bus, popsicle patrol, and a junior officer program. Since our last annual, we've also become a member of the BATF, the Black Hawk Area Task Force. The Black Hawk Area Task Force continues to operate here in Clinton. It is a multi-jurisdictional drug task force supervised by the Illinois State Police. Being a part of the BATF provides Clinton residents with additional manpower for investigations, access to advanced technology, and superior equipment. In 2021, our BATF intercepted a 5-pound package of methamphetamine and successfully removed it from our streets. As a result of the BATF serving our community, both drugs and firearms have been seized and removed from our community. In 2021, these seizures led to 5 federal court cases and multiple charges. Also, as a result of BATF, we received $25,000 from the Black Hawk Area Task Force in forfeitures. All right. One thing I wanted to mention that our SCAT team does, along with being very effective in drug enforcement, they maintain a strategic subject list. The primary goal of this list is to identify potential people with the greatest tendency for crime or violence as both the offender or the victim. This list looks at past criminal behavior, criminal associations, gang membership, and intelligence reported. If we have someone on this list, we go to this person and tell them that you are on our list and we believe you have a high propensity of being a victim or an offender, and we are going to be watching you. So it puts them on alert that we know who they are and they know who we are. So another stat since the last annual was our canine. We increased it to 2 officers and 2 dogs, which resulted in a person arrested twice over 6 weeks with about 180 grams of methamphetamine. We had a person arrested from our strategic subject list with 4.83 pounds of methamphetamine, 24 hours in cash, and a handgun. We had 2 people who were found stabbed multiple times. Officers have received a description, and armed with this description, Canine Grizz located the offender hiding in the bushes a couple blocks away. We also have our SRT team, Special Response Team. This SRT team is a group of highly trained police professionals who respond to high-risk situations, they de-escalate situations, and they resolve the incident. Our SRT operates under an existing mutual aid agreement between all the agencies in the Gateway Area Police Administration, which is basically all of Clinton County and Fulton. We have 22 operators, 2 medics, 3 snipers, 15 tactical operators, and our primary objective is to ensure the safety of all persons. These are some of our 2021 activities. Again, traffic stops were 300, traffic stop officer arrests were 280. So that shows you, if you're looking at that, out of 300 stops, 280 of them led to an arrest, which means that we're stopping the right people. Felony arrest, K9 24, misdemeanor arrest 7. You know, you can look at all the numbers, and I urge you again to look at the annual we put in there, and then we'll have more specific details. Any questions?
Do you, on your recap of arrests, do your CLDs account for that as well? Your misdemeanor arrests on your citations, are those counted as arrests?
Yes. If we cite somebody, it's an arrest, yes.
Which it should be, yeah.
But we've had better luck. Some people need to go to jail. We had one instance during this COVID where we got a guy 3 times in 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours, as an offender in 3 different crimes. Well, if we would put him in jail the first time, those 2...
Oh, I totally concur on that. I'm not sure our county attorney always does, but also, I would assume over the last 24 months, the DART team has probably gotten a lot more calls for service.
Since COVID, our DART team and our mental health people have been taxed a lot more than normal. And it's all because of COVID. It's all because of people being inside and restricted. And, yep.
Yeah, all right. That's all. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We don't get off that easy.
Yeah,
we got to give everybody else a chance.
Because if I ask for questions, it's not as important as you asking for questions.
Oh, maybe, I guess. Is there any other questions for Chief?
I think a thank you is well deserved for everything you guys do, so we appreciate it.
Are the new radios working well?
Yeah.
They are working well.
Okay.
Good.
And like I
And
said,
the new tower is working well?
yes,
All
and
right.
it eliminates the
Good.
need for in-car radios, but
Perfect.
we're working on that.
We're going to ask you how that process went.
Oh,
Hey, Chief, how's the ring system working for you?
we've just started this neighborhood ring thing. We're trying to expand that, but the ring system works pretty good.
Gee
We
whiz.
have our deputy chief is working on getting a whole, in our Citizens Police Academies, nonprofits that are going to join with the ring and get a wider citywide connection to it. So
That's awesome.
we're going to increase it. Yeah, our cameras are coming up in the next budget too, so we're going to improve coverage and be all around safer, in my opinion.
And just accolades to the team is, you know, this past week, a few you might have seen it, but with both the nuisance officer and then somebody in the back there, Mr. Cullen, Captain Cullen, but using the ring from neighbors, they were able to identify a lot of movement during a lot of different hours and identify some folks that were staying in a house next door. Turned out that that person needed some assistance from his family, was able to get a power of attorney to his brother.
Talking
And
about last week?
yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
Nice.
so that was really good to do. And the other thing I think is that just to underscore it is that part with the civilian clothes folks, that they're actually looking at it across the state of Iowa as others to do it, of being able to have the person go in for mental health versus somebody in uniform walking in the door when something's happening, right? Because even though our SROs do an outstanding job and we want the kids to embrace police officers, people typically react differently. But I think that program is great, and we're going to look at a program of some possibly intern things coming up here where some of the folks that are looking to do that mental health field might be able to join in right along and see how that goes as far as actions on the objective dealing with mentally ill folks. So.
And it's a huge, as everybody knows in recent times, it's a huge factor with people in crisis and police responding. Because a lot of times citizens believe that police and fire are supposed to handle everything that they can't handle. And sometimes a person in mental crisis needs a professional. And if you can have the professional and keep them safe, have them handle that person in crisis, there's statistics that 80% of arrests involve people in some kind of crisis, drug crisis or mental crisis. So if we can cut that down, I think we go a long way to improving everything.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Good deal.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Best slide clicking ever.
I would entertain a motion from council to accept the annual report.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the annual report from the police department. Is there any other discussion? Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shimmers.
Yes.
Witt.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Ogren.
Yes.
Mussman.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
Councilmember Kearns.
Thank you, Your Honor. When we were out in Coralville last year, they had an entire session, which a couple of us attended, on natural plantings in your yard, which became the pollinator stations. And Tammy came to I guess you got a call for a nuisance because there's somebody in town that had a pollinator station growing in their backyard. I don't know that it's exactly the kind of pollinator station that we were looking for, but it is his version of a pollinator station all the same. So we decided to get some information together and bring it to the open forum to discuss if we would like to allow natural plantings in front and backyards in the city of Clinton, and giving them guidelines to live within so that it's not just letting your grass grow so that, you know, you don't have to mow. So we would ask them to go to BNS and get a permit and give a site plan and also a maintenance plan. We would give them ramifications on where they can and can't plant 5 feet from the right-of-way and 2 foot from the city sidewalk. Tammy had asked if we could maybe have signs made up so that they could put if they've gotten the permit, they can put a sign in their yard that's visible for BNS if they, not BNS, for the nuisance, if they get called out so that they know what they're attempting to do, because these don't always look the best in their first year or 3. Sometimes it takes a few years to get them established. We have worked with, let me put my glasses on so I can read mine. We're asking them to use natural Iowa plants that are approved by the state of Iowa, by the Iowa DNR, for plants that will actually grow and reseed themselves and drown out weeds. And there are also plants that are provided, but there's more on the Iowa sites that are not allowed, that they cannot put in because they take over too fast. So, you know, we would be asking a little bit more of Tammy and Lori when they go out, but I don't think every single person out there is going to be doing a pollinator station in their yard. One of the questions that was posed by Tammy is, do we want to minimize the amount of space we allow in a front or backyard? Like 50% of a front yard, 75% of a backyard. We saw pictures out in Coralville, and some of these places are absolutely gorgeous. And they had 100% of the yard done, paths through it. They even had rotted trees that they left for bees and owls and bats and.
Like they have trails going through it?
Well, they do like a rock garden throughout. So they can be gorgeous if they're done right, and that's the intention of what we would want.
Yep.
We don't
So-
want something to look like a weed garden.
Yep, not the right of way, but a lot of them had like one path they would mow like before their fence, and a lot of them would have nice fences around. But no, I think the concept too is starting small to go, and I think the sign, because Miss Jody, my wife, did the one through Illinois, which you you have to fill out the paperwork and follow their schematic of what you plant and what not, and then send in pictures, and then they actually send you a sign that says you're a pollinator pocket for that too.
That's good. That'd be kind of cool to have a little sign.
Yeah.
Give people a little pride.
Well, and if Tammy gets called to a nuisance property, she would know that
Yep.
this is what they're trying to start with, and if they haven't gotten the information from Building and Neighborhood Services, they could go get it and,
Do you think
you know,
the city would provide the plaque thing sign?
I think eventually down the road,
I think our intention was that they could get one when they went and got their permit, so that
Yep.
Tammy would know that they've already taken the steps to get the permit.
Okay.
Brian already left, but we were thinking about having our public works guy make them down it. Because we have a sign maker thing and just make
You
it,
could probably make something that looks kind of neat.
That's
and
metal that doesn't
actually,
rust, yeah.
Someone's walking down the sidewalk.
They can
and
see
you-
it.
Yeah,
And then they see what's going on
Yeah.
there.
yeah, ours is only like this big, or I should say Joe's.
yeah, I don't think it's gotta be,
small.
yeah, it doesn't have to be like a political sign. You want
No,
something
no,
that's
no.
gonna blend in.
That way people know what it is.
Can we put a picture of Captain Pollinator on there?
So, I mean, I guess I would ask for any questions or suggestions, or,
The one thing that I really liked and hope to see a little bit more expansion of is the maintenance plan idea. So that, hey, your maintenance plan needs to include this. Like, you know, you don't want things that are 15 foot tall.
no, there's a height limit on here.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that needs to be a part of that. And I think when, the other thing, when you get to Exhibit A, Exhibit B, I would actually put under Exhibit A, these are allowed, and under Exhibit B, these are not allowed.
yeah.
Instead of having to see it up in the narrative, that way you can see it down in
Sure.
the actual stuff too. But this is, you know me, I'm a nature guy, so I think this is cool.
Rhonda, the only concern I have is in our older part of town, south of Bluff.
The right of way signs.
The right of way literally goes to the people's front porches almost in some areas. So I'm wondering if we should identify it as a setback from the sidewalk. There's like, I mean,
Yep.
look at like
Yeah,
7th
Pershing and
Avenue,
Roosevelt.
literally their porches, so
Yeah.
they wouldn't be allowed to do anything.
Right.
I think we could work in there where if they come to us with a plan and they show how they're gonna do it there.
The city can
Because
still
we don't
approve.
plan on making the road go all the way to their house.
Exactly.
You know, we don't have plans for that.
So maybe that can
And-
be handled by staff if
Just a variance
they've got
for,
a situation. Because there would be no reason they couldn't be 2 foot off the
Yep.
sidewalk.
Yep.
Yeah,
concur.
I would agree.
And it's just plants, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually talked about redoing that right away and.
It's so
and-
goofy.
and-
And it's not the only one. I mean, there's.
no.
Oh, they're
Steve
all-
Leidinger
yeah,
said it
they're
would
all over.
take days to do that, so,
We don't want to pay for that.
no. It'd take a long time.
So that would be my only suggestion.
So that would be number 2 of the, whatever the properly maintained paragraph is there. So you'd have to just kind of tweak that one to say public rights of way or a variance based on, I don't know.
I just say we put in there, we'll put a line that you can request a variance if your right of way comes up.
There you go.
beyond
To your
the
front
sidewalk.
door.
Yeah. There you go. That's
Because
a good way to
most
put it.
people understand that they take care of that yard anyway, but they know the sidewalk, the disembark piece is, once you go past the sidewalk towards the street, they know that that's the right of way, so I think variance could be from your sidewalk to your home, as long as you're maintaining it.
And I have a question. You mentioned something about how much area they'll be using in,
Yeah, looking for, suggestions on that, if anybody would like to make a suggestion.
Yeah, because at the conference, they talked specifically about some cities started just in their backyards
Okay.
and said that, and then what's the right amount, and I think what this lays out for everybody is that you can use that as long as you maintain it well. We're not gonna put limits at this
I
point in
agree.
time.
I think
No
if it's
limit.
being well maintained, I'm
And-
fine with.
I'd rather go back to, out of 50, one of them that we have to go back to and just talk to say, hey, you need to.
I got a cornfield.
Yeah.
Councilmember Shimmers had a comment.
Yeah, I just, let's say, for instance, there's a large business out there and all of a sudden they say they got flowers that are taller than their trees. How does this affect the businesses? I love the idea, and I was there with you on
You
it.
do?
And I do, I love that, but I'm curious how this, I mean, we're talking neighborhoods, which is what this needs to be, but let's say a business just decides to grow, pollinators as tall as trees.
Well,
How does this affect that?
Right now, we do not have anything to address that. But if we put this in, we can put a limit on the
In here,
height.
yeah.
Oh, I know, that's why I said I love the idea,
Mm-hmm.
but does that also address the businesses?
Yeah, it would apply to
I
everyone.
mean, I would
It's the
think it would
grass
be
and
anybody
weed
within city limits.
Okay,
But the way that you have Chapter 94 to permit residents, it really doesn't say permit business.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Hold
Well,
on. Let's look at chapter 94.
And I'm just looking at the
It,
background.
it does
that you
say
have in
residential
there, yeah.
property owners too. In the next, right at the beginning of the next paragraph.
well, it can just say property
Which,
owners.
where, while they're looking that up, the setback stuff,
Yeah.
did you model that from a different
Yeah,
community?
Cedar Rapids and Iowa City.
cool.
Lisa was kind enough to send both of them to me, and so I kind of combined the two
Well,
of
they could
them.
probably stay in there and just.
Do they have a lot of them? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
but they along with I think Davenport was the other one, already had it out there, so
Oh, really? Cool.
they've got some.
So, I guess our chapter 94 actually probably needs updated too. Because it is very specific to residential property. Of course.
Of course. Yeah. Good call.
The grass mowing standards would apply to all properties, so Matt and I can work on that.
We have them all done by some point.
Actually, I mean, this could probably be fixed with this.
Yeah, both together.
Yeah.
Is there more suggestions for the pollinator? Is it a pollinator ordinance? Is that what we're calling it?
Well, we're
Or
adding it to
updating the pollinator section.
We're adding
Yeah.
it to section 94.
What do you still have some questions on things like that you're looking for input for, or
Well, I was hoping everybody read it and that they would have questions if they
Oh, I-
understand something or wanted
Okay.
something
I thought we had a
added.
good conversation.
no? I thought it was good. I just didn't know if you had more things that you were looking for.
No,
as
I mean,
far
I'm
as-
sure that once
Okay.
we get out there and see what a couple people have done, we
Yeah.
might have to
Yeah.
tweak it a little bit. And
Mrs. Brooke was gonna call in, but I held her off for now. She's excited.
She wants to do one?
She already has.
Oh, whoa.
We have one in the front and the back from Illinois, University of Illinois.
Really? Nice.
I know Nancy's got a question.
Yeah.
Comment.
As of now, there is no restriction on how much of your yard you can use.
No, we don't have anything in there for this at
As long as
all.
it's maintained.
Well, right now,
Yeah.
right now, yeah, right,
So technically, technically, right now,
it's just weeds.
if I tried to do this right now in my front yard,
You'd
you're
get shut
against the
down.
grass and weed ordinance because it can't be over.
8 foot.
Well,
or
unless
eight-
you're the
eight
city
inches.
administrator, then apparently you've got two of them.
Well, but it's like where the.
Okay.
But so I guess there is something that I was thinking about because like ornamental grasses, some of those go to
Yeah.
8 foot,
Well,
10 foot
and
tall.
there's a really neat family on South
Yeah.
11th that does sunflowers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
And it
always
looked
look really
real good,
nice.
and then when they go, they clean them all up, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I was thinking that within a certain amount of feet of the right of way or the public sidewalk, you can't allow
Something
Too
over
big to
over
overhang.
3 foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that would have to be like
Yeah.
either around a tree where you
Or
already
by
have the
your
height,
house, you
or
could have
yeah.
some-
Yeah, and they showed us example at the conference of that, and it was basically all the stuff was leaning over the fence, and it was basically on the sidewalk.
Yep.
So it was impeding people trying to pass
So
by.
that'd be a problem.
Do we need to add something in there also about like the corners, so you don't obstruct the view of traffic on a corner as well?
Right, because
Supposed to be 5 foot from your right of way or 2 foot from your public sidewalk, so that
Hopefully it doesn't-
should take you back
have some
on the
sidewalk
corner.
I would think. Okay, I don't remember which road we were just talking about the other day on 3rd Street there. That there's bushes that are probably
11th Avenue North
Yeah.
or 12th Avenue North. You can't
Yeah.
even see because the bushes are in the way to get onto 4th
Well,
Street.
see, if I drove past it, I would call on it.
I just so we don't affect
Or 9th
so
Avenue
we don't
North.
affect things like that.
9th
No, but
Avenue North
but
going
if
to
you,
south.
yeah, I mean, I understand, but and we're not going out there trying to get everybody to take down their tall grass if it's parked in the corner of their yard and it's flanking their private sidewalk. That's not what we're trying to do, but
Yeah.
we just don't want to encourage people to plant the high things out by the curb, and if it does obstruct a view, it's got to be
Yeah.
cut down.
Yeah, maybe just a simple sentence that says it cannot obstruct the view of right-of-ways. I mean, that's all it takes,
Yeah.
really.
If you remember out on Harts Mill, he had beautiful cosmos, and everything was mowed all around it. It was all very nice and neat, and then just cosmos everywhere.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. So, I mean, that's the kind of the intent on a smaller scale, is we want to see that. And we understand, too, it's the same thing we're going through with Liberty Square, which we're probably going to have a lot more potted plants versus stuff on the ground, because once the season's over, it just does not look good.
Who's going to water all those?
Mother Nature.
Potted plants are hard, man.
Yeah. So.
Cool. You know, this kind of goes well with our urban garden thing we've been having going on, too.
Yep.
Great. A little different, you know, growing vegetables and stuff.
All right.
So, Councilmember Kearns, would you like this to be moved forward with the adjustments made that have been discussed?
Yes.
Then I would make that motion to move it forward.
Wow, the pollinator guy. Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I got to say.
Whip, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
Just a clarification, we're going to get this to the city attorney to prepare an ordinance. Is that what we're going to do now? Is that the
We're going
next
to add
step?
it to 94.
It'll be added to.
It'll be section
Well, we're also going to
94.
take a look at 94 at the same time.
Yeah, so,
But we won't hold it up, though. If we have to bite off too much on 94.
Yeah, that might need a
We'll get this
different-
done.
okay,
but then we'll
that's what I was kind of.
Because that way it'd be nice to get it done now because
Yeah.
we can start this year.
Because, yeah, I got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you have something else? Oh, you look.
I know 94 is residential, but I guess all properties, if it's all properties, it's all properties. That kind of clarifies
I think
regardless,
so.
it's all properties.
Yeah,
So,
private
but-
property
and
instead
this
of
needed to be
residential.
addressed one way or another, because sometimes places pop up out of nowhere that have flowers that are taller than trees. So,
That's true.
thank you for bringing this forward.
All right, any other discussion on this? Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Shemmers.
Yes.
Whip.
Yes.
Seeley.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Oben.
Yes?
Muslim.
Yes.
Kearns.
Yes.
Councilmember Seeley.
Hey, Your Honor. I changed. The only thing changed is the Finance Committee from 2 public members to 4. That puts us at a total of 7. I would like more public input, and I think the others agree as well. If we cannot get 4 people at a time, it could be challenging once in a while, and we only have 3 public members and we're seeking a 4th. I don't see how that'll negatively impact anything. Do you?
I'm not following what you said there.
If we have a vacancy on there from, say we only have 3 public members instead of 4.
Obviously the only problem you would have is if you're voting on something, you could be 3-3, but that happens here sometimes too if someone doesn't show up.
It does. A lot of times, people get busy, so then we have, members that can't show up, so then it just ends up being 3 council members, and so I think 4 is a nice number. I do have some people interested. I think you've reached out to some people too.
Yep, I've had a couple
I
people
know
interested.
Rhonda and Ron have spoke about it. I think we'll be able to get 4.
Did you read the notes from the advisory committee?
I did, and the point was that it's hard to fill, right?
No.
No, there was
Her
still.
point is that you shouldn't necessarily need to increase your members on your committee. You could increase your private and reduce your council.
Yeah, and I don't quite agree with that because the most important thing we do as a council member, one of them is the financial responsibilities of the city. So I don't see, 3 council members being involved, I think is good. And honestly, my finance, the board is smaller than the predominant commissions and boards we have. And why it was established that way, I'm not sure.
Well, I was going to ask you guys too, because I did some research for y'all because you wanted public input.
But don't jump the gun here.
Oh, I got you. Sorry.
That was
Go
part of, so I had people reach out to me as well, and I did read the minutes, and they think 3 council members is too large. We do have a committee of the whole, which is what we're doing now for the reason that a financial group can get together as well. And one of the questions was, do we even need such a committee for that, we do have a committee of the whole, which is what you said in the past. This is why we have a committee of the whole, so we can address issues that do come up. Now,
Do we need a finance committee? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and let me take us even one step further, because we do like to copy other communities.
Okay.
Again, and I'm paraphrasing what you've said in the past. What is the other cities doing? Let's do it. So, cities sizes 13 through 23, we sit at number 20, have no finance committee. We're the only one out of those 11, with the exception of Marshalltown, does have a cash and investment review committee that meets 3 to 4 times annually. So I go back to what a person also made a comment on in the committee where the notes came from, where asked, are we fulfilling our needs? I guess it depends, what is our goal, what are we trying to fulfill? And if we're modeling after what we typically do, other communities, they have nothing. So
Do they have any other committees that relate to?
they have a committee of the whole that relate to it.
Well, I thought citizen input was invaluable.
And I'm not taking away from that. I guess why are we creating a bureaucracy with more council members?
Well, okay, that's the existing structure.
So
I'm not adding more council members.
No, my suggestion is let's remove some council members. I don't have a problem with more citizens, although one of the other things that I was told is the more council members you have, the more intimidating it becomes to citizens. And I don't disagree with that either. Regardless, we're all citizens, yes, but we're also elected officials. And so when we walk into a room, we're always a council member, regardless. And so does that become intimidating? Well, if I'm being told it is, who am I to say to a citizen that you're wrong?
I agree with that.
So
we can modify this. I think, how long has the finance committee been established?
So since I'm brand new to the finance committee, can we have Anita come up and tell us exactly what she expects of us as the finance committee?
Yeah.
Great call.
Yeah, now there's some roles the finance committee has to fulfill based on the audits and things like that.
No, actually, based on the audit, no. We have to make sure that things are reconciled, but not through a finance committee.
Okay.
It could be done in a cow. It could
Okay.
be done on
Well,
individuals.
I mean,
for example, each one of you, if you only took 1 month, might have to only do 1 or 2 reviews. The monthly reconciliation has to be done. Each council member could actually take one of those home, review that, and then bring it back to
Well,
the
let's dissolve it then.
It could be.
Yeah, no, that's great.
To us.
That's great. I think it's awesome that, Mr. Matt and Bill, can prepare this kind of information for us.
Like we always do for every topic.
Yes, you
Go ahead, Miss Anita.
Great job.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I did not put Councilmember Shimmers up to this, so get that out of the way right now.
Just real quick, and I'm not trying to step on anything here, but some of the work you do in the finance committee also becomes redundant when you do in the cow.
Yeah, it is.
So I know you have a ton of free time, so
I do.
explain to us what it is that you expect.
The Finance Committee was established in, I think, 2015. Matt, do you have the ordinance you could pull up because it would have the date on it? There was one particular council person who was seated in January of 2014 who felt it was imperative to establish the Finance Committee.
Who was that?
Do you want me to say the council member's
Yeah.
name? It was Ed O'Neill.
Okay. Just asking because I didn't know. I didn't know. Yeah.
So it was established in, I think it finally got established sometime in 2015. We've had kind of a rocky tenure with the city. We don't meet every month. A lot of times during the budget process, it's very difficult for me to get an agenda for a finance committee when we've got 2 months of budget workshops, and to find the time to squeeze it in. One of the main goals, if Matt does have the ordinance there, one of the main goals of the finance committee is to review the audit report. We did that. Took us a couple hours the other night, but that's so that you guys that are on the finance committee that reviewed it can then tell other members of the council if you have questions, if they're not going to just reach out to me with the answer. We do always have the state of Iowa audit supervisor present the audit report. I mean, he went through it. I chuckled to myself in the back because they're here like 3 months, and he went through that in 10 minutes. And I was like, wow, all that work was condensed down to a 10-minute conversation about the audit. But really for me, and I did share this with Councilmember Shimmers because he asked me, it checks a box for the audit for me to have the finance committee. But if we just moved things to a cow, like reviewing the audit report. The one other thing is the review of the bank statements, because I do the bank reconciliations. You know, that's something that maybe could change in my office as we shift some work around, as we install systems that will take less manual processes, that could move to somebody else, because I do it now and I'm also a signer on the account. Then the finance committee provides a layer of protection for me and for you guys to review those transactions.
Definitely. So
I think it lists there's like.
Yeah, so basically here it is. Basically it says, the purpose of the sub-chapter is to establish a finance committee to make recommendations on financial matters of the city and to monitor the integrity of the city's financial reporting process. Membership is finance committee will meet monthly. They will have a designated chair and recording secretary. A finance director will prepare agendas and work plans for meetings. A record of the proceedings will be kept in the same manner in official minutes of the city. Powers and duties: they'll monitor the budget and finance activities through monthly review and discussions, to assist development of financial policies and make recommendations to City Council, to review the city's annual audited financial statements prior to acceptance by the council, and to assist with the development of rate structures and fees schedules for the city services, and to assist in development and implementation of internal controls, procedures, practices with regard to finance, accounting, and legal compliance.
So I would say of that list, you know, the main thing that the finance committee has done is reviewing the audit report before it comes to all of you as a council to approve. The biggest thing that the finance committee's done since its incorporation in 2015 was the RFP for banking services. That's the biggest task that we've taken on. So,
do you think there's a need for the committee, Anita? And I've got enough meetings, so you're not going to hurt my feelings.
I think it is poor form for me as the finance director to stand here and say that we don't need a finance committee, because I think that makes me look like I might be trying to hide something, and I'm not. So
yeah, we know that. Yeah.
So I don't really want to answer that question.
Okay, that's cool. Councilmember Rowland.
Being on that side of the table when the finance committee was first developed, a lot of it was because of a political nature that, hey, we're not being as forthright with all the information as we should be as a city. That way we need more public input. And so that finance committee was developed, at least when I was sitting on that side of the table, to say, hey, we just need to be more open with what we're doing. It was during that time of our journey here. And so that was kind of the big thing. Not that anything was ever being done wrong, it's just that nobody knew what really was going on, and having more citizen input was the thing that we were trying to do at that point in a lot of committees, not just this one.
Yeah, and so I started with the city in October of 2013. 4 new council persons were seated in did I say 2013? October of 2013. 4 new council persons were seated in January of 2014, with one of them feeling in the fashion that Greg or Councilmember Oberon just described, and then the finance committee was established in whatever month it was of 2015.
So,
yes, Councilmember.
Thank you, Anita. So would it be better for us to have a task force as opposed to calling it a finance committee, and they would come in and review the budgets? And I'm not asking you because you don't want to be asked, and that's okay.
I have them all hooked up here, Cody.
That is comprised of a few citizens and a couple of council people, and we would go over the budget once a year, but we would still, Ron drug his in today, we would still have someone on that committee or that task force go through the reconciliations after Anita's done with them, and not call it a finance committee. Well, I think a committee means that you have to meet monthly or every other month, and a task force.
We certainly don't need to do that.
And a task force means that you meet when it's necessary, right? So,
That could be modified.
So one thing that and it's in the audit report under the segregation of duties, it says that, that someone that does not have the ability to sign on the account, to sign checks, doesn't reconcile. Someone that does not have the ability to sign doesn't reconcile the account. So that means I reconcile the account and I have the ability to sign. So, and they want timely reviews.
Right.
So it's nice to meet monthly and then I pass them out. Because like at the last finance committee, I passed out 3 bank statements and I really had 4 to pass out, but there was only 3 of you there to accept them.
right, but do we
So-
really need to meet just to get a bank statement is my
Yeah.
point on that?
Yeah.
I mean, we could just stop in, or a citizen could stop in, or whatever.
Yep.
Could stop in and get that bank statement, have it back to you within a
I
month.
mean, last year, I don't think the finance committee met monthly.
No.
I mean,
We did not meet
and
monthly.
I've tried per the ordinance to get that back on track.
What are we going to talk about, though, if she doesn't have anything but to give us?
We've had a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
We've been busy.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, we're
I
just-
skipped-
time of year.
I skipped the audit with the 1 month because we were going through budget season and stuff. But I've been trying to. I mean, nobody was going to go down there if there's nothing to talk about.
Well, I
Yeah.
hope not.
I don't want to.
But the thing is that there's a lot of stuff that can be reviewed, just like ordinances that Bill and everybody go through. There's a lot of stuff that probably hasn't been reviewed as far as rates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't for the finance committee coming up with, I think it was Sean Connell that came up with the RFP, we wouldn't be in a better position than where we are now as far as the banking goes.
Yeah, we've
So-
had some things that we've discussed at the finance committee level, and they got, they were unapproved. And then upon further review, we
With county
felt
people.
that it needed to come to
Sorry.
the whole council for approval.
Sorry, we're sidebars on Marion. They actually have one where they have the county treasurer that meets with a financial person with the treasurer's office that meet to talk about investment and other things like that. It'd be great to have a committee that would actually meet to talk about levies.
Yeah, but wouldn't that come under the, as the finance committee goes, wouldn't that come under the finance committee?
It would, but when Marion, what they call it is the Financial Investment Oversight Committee. But it looks like it's a bigger group because they're talking about the treasurer's office.
Yeah.
And they're talking about that, but yeah. We're just looking for other examples out there.
Yeah. So,
Well, the one thing that I want to bring up here is that, as an example, with the tree commission, we don't meet in December and January because there's just no need. There's not any issues that come up in that realm. Everything is more
Frozen.
Yeah, frozen. Exactly. You know.
advisory appointments meets as needed too.
Well,
Yeah,
we
exactly.
could
So
modify this to an as-needed basis.
or maybe a minimum of quarterly. But certainly, could meet every week if it needs to be met every week. But, as long as we're complying with the open meetings law, which we all do now anyway,
That'd be awesome.
I mean, if it was modified to an as-needed, I mean, because you're pretty good about saying, hey, we need to get together for this.
So, would you maybe do the quarterly meetings, because that's the end of budget season, and then part of the responsibility of the council members on that committee is to evaluate bank reconciliations, each month, you know what I mean? Because you don't need
Yeah.
necessarily a meeting
It's
for
not
that.
just the council members.
Or,
it's the
sorry, the
finance
committee,
committee.
yes.
Yeah.
We're actually
Sorry.
hoping, I think that there's a couple persons on the council that are hoping that a citizen person with an accounting background that just joined the commission or the board might take over. Hey, Megan. Might take over the bank statement reviews. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's fine too.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have not needed to meet monthly in the past. We had 2 meetings this
No.
month.
Yeah.
But that was only
It
because
was
we
odd,
didn't get one
and-
in February, and then the audit report
Yeah.
came.
So we could definitely
Fine.
modify this to it Do you have anything, Megan, that you want to?
Well, I mean, I don't, like Anita said, as a layer of protection for her, for the finance committee, if that's the main objective. I've been involved in a lot of situations where that's warranted. I would hate to see you get rid of that if that's what it's doing for her. You know, but time-wise, you know, I don't really have any input because I don't know for sure what it entails. Definitely the reconciliation of bank statements. I'm with her. Like I'm on our PCA, and our insurance is not, like if we would have some fraud happen within our PCA, we don't have someone sign our bank statements and review them timely. It's null and void. I mean, there just is no protection. So, you know, it is very important that someone else not on the account or associated is reviewing that part of it. So, especially if within the office that's not happening already. So, but timely, it's just as needed. If we don't need to meet every month, I'm not.
And I will say, when it comes to the bank statements, they're not like your checkbook.
No.
There's a lot more money in there?
There's a lot of
A lot more money, but a lot more complicated to do.
yeah, a lot of transactions.
I'll just give you a hard time.
Yeah, I think I've spent over 4 hours on this.
Well, we appreciate your time. Go ahead, sir.
If I may, I think I can provide a little historical perspective. If you think back to the time when this finance committee was formalized and the months and years before that, I think Greg hit it best. There was some political push and pull within the council. There was a council person who was a certified public accountant and understood finance a lot better than some of the other council people. And so it became a compromise that let's have a finance committee. And some of the things that were going on at that time was like the pavement management program and starting to do the sewer separation, the combined sewer overflow separation, and where's the money going to come from. And it was more of a, let's have a committee that can do the broad overview and give us a direction, not the minutia of the whole budget. I'd caution you to stay away from getting more citizens than you have council members on that committee, because the tendency is going to be that that committee is going to come to you with a financial recommendation, and you as council people are going to exercise your responsibility to review that and determine the budget priorities and the budget items, and you're not going to agree with some of that stuff. And that is going to frustrate those people, saying, why am I doing this if they're not going to go along with my recommendations? And especially the fact that if you have more of citizen involvement than council members, you're going to have unelected representatives controlling your budget. You're either going to have to approve what your finance committee does, regardless of what they come up with, or you're going to have to just take it for what it's worth and pick it apart and do the job that you were elected to do. But understand, what started all this was political conflict. How are we going to do all of these things? And it became, let's develop a plan. And I believe, Cody, I think you were one of the first citizens appointed to that committee.
I was, and that's actually why I'm sitting here today.
That's right.
And I applied. I didn't hear a peep from the city, and then I got an email that said I was on the finance committee and I had a meeting the next week. And Lynn McGraw was on it then.
But wasn't that to come up with this, the big picture finance, not the minutia?
You know, the finance committee has fulfilled a lot of varying roles over the years, and honestly, it's a lot of tedious stuff, like going through some of those statements and stuff. I remember doing that in the beginning, in recommendations to the council on a random basis. I mean, I remember we've discussed, things like sewer rates, things of those nature.
All the things that you
going
are
back that far
supposed
is
to
quite a
do
ways.
as in your elected positions.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And my main point is we have these meetings, and a lot of times people are absent, and it just ends up being council members per se, which is fine. But I've never had a situation in the finance committee where I thought public input would be bad, and I think it's one of those committees where we may agree to disagree on some stuff, but very rarely does that happen in my past experience.
But you could declare a meeting to say, hey, anybody that wants to know more, come to the city council chambers on this date at this time, and we're going to go over the budget with you, and you're going to learn everything
and we
about the
declare
budget.
these meetings every week, and this is what, I'm happy Megan came, and thank you for applying, by the way. Yeah.
It would be an empty council chambers.
Well, they're open meetings now.
Yeah.
They're published.
Yeah.
So another
Thank
thing
you.
too is that when the finance committee started, in that same neighborhood time-wise, we started the capital improvement plan program. And so there was a lot of things going on simultaneously that, when we're in the process of developing long-term control plans and pavement management plans, there was a lot of money talk, and everybody was kind of getting antsy.
Yep.
And so the finance committee kind of, maybe smoothed over some of that water too. At that time, do we need it, 10 years later? I guess that's what we're having this discussion tonight, but.
Well, no, we're having the discussion because Cody, who is chair of the finance committee, identified that he felt there needed to be more public input.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And spoke with several other council members that said, hey, I think that sounds good.
Right.
And that was the intent. I had no idea we were going to be going down the road of dissolving the committee or changing the completely how it operates. In fact, I thought we'd be done 10 minutes ago. So, but I'm never shocked anymore. Basically, I want more citizens' input. If you guys want it, you do. You don't, you don't.
Our concern was the three of us were sitting there in the meeting, and we were the only ones who would have been able to vote on anything because nobody else was there.
And there was no
And was
citizen
that
input.
correct, to just have 3 council members and no public?
Yep.
Right.
That was our concern.
Yep. And we ended up not technically even having a meeting because we didn't have a quorum.
No, but it was a good example of.
Right.
Yep. So I'm fine with whatever the pleasure is of, you guys did a lot of research. What do you want to do, Bill?
Just bring you out another open-minded discussion. We do this all the time at Committee of the Holes.
Yeah,
we know
what's
we
your
rip
pleasure?
apart. I don't have a pleasure. I'm sitting here listening.
Okay.
And I'm listening to recommendations as well. I just brought up the point what other cities do.
Okay.
Because that's what we do. I did bring up some concerns from citizens, constituents, which
Okay.
I should do. So I don't sit on that committee. I don't chair the committee. Maybe if we met less, and I say we, because we still have a committee of the whole that we got to rehash it all, and with Anita as well, maybe if there were less meetings, you might attract more citizens because of the fantastic pay they get when they come in here as a volunteer and sit down and meet over stuff for hours at a time.
Yeah,
I don't have the answer. I am just bringing out other options out there.
And I'm fine with whatever. I thought the way you guys presented some information, I thought you had a plan. I will say that it's steps like this where people start getting engaged on committees, and when they start getting passionate about things, they end up sitting right here. And Megan may be the next one, or one of the other 3 people that we appoint to that board. No, I'm dead serious. I mean, I had zero idea what went on down here until I got on that finance committee.
Well, that's
Zero.
That's how I ended up here.
Yeah.
Started with the monument
Yep.
committee.
And so I think these committees play a vital role, and I completely concur with you, Bill. I want to listen to my constituents, and that's why I want more of them. That's it.
I don't disagree with you.
Yep.
I don't disagree with you.
But
I also know that we've brought stuff forward after going through several committees, and we completely ignore the citizens' input
Yep.
and still rule on it because
Yep, and that
we are
those
the
sit-
7 mighty people in the city.
Well, I don't feel that way at all, but sometimes, sometimes people have differing opinions. It's the reality of, I mean, we should never all sit here and all agree and nod our heads all the time. That is not what we're here for. And neither should a
And
finance
that's where we're at
committee.
right now, Cody.
Yeah. No, I agree, and that's fine. And you're right, sometimes we don't listen to our boards and commissions, and that's just the way life is.
What if?
Let's
just for
modify it to an
tonight-
as-needed basis.
What if just for tonight you left the ordinance as it is? We lost a member, we lost one citizen.
Nope, I've
member
already
who
got people I've
retired.
talked to, and
Okay.
I want the council to make the decision.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to paraphrase what you've done in the past as well. Let's get it right now. Let's get it right the first time.
Yep.
Because we don't want to come back and fix it later.
That's right.
So
So, what are we thinking?
So there are people interested to serve?
Based on some conversations I've had, and I know, I don't know who he's talked to, but I know he's talked to some people. And I thought Rhonda had someone in mind too, but maybe.
That's her.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, we got that one taken care of.
Well, I'll make a motion, we go to a 7-member finance committee. No, wait a minute, hold on a sec. Do we need 3 council members on that?
I don't think council members are intimidating. Do you, Megan? Like, would you as a citizen be like, oh gosh, I don't want to join a committee because there's 3 council members?
Pitting your citizens against my citizens, that's awesome.
No, I'm just asking.
They're all
I'm not, but I know several personally for
Yeah.
the community, so no, that was not, that thought never crossed my mind when Ron.
That never crossed my mind either until it got brought up, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was
Well,
probably the-
I
this is
have
the
heard
zoning
it, not
board.
about the
Yeah.
finance
When you
committee,
came
but
to
I
the
have
zoning
heard
board,
it.
That's why, because you intimidated them, the zoning board.
One thing we all need to consider is the fact that we have a statutory responsibility to review and finalize the budget. And I don't care what we do with regard to the committee. I don't have a policy argument I'm making here. But one thing I would want to caution the council against is any situation where you have a large number of citizens and then the council sort of backs away from the decisions about the budget by having a minority of council members on that committee, because then you have opinion coming from folks who have not been elected. There's nothing at all wrong with citizen involvement. We should get that. We should get all the input we can get. But ultimately, it's up to you folks. Statutorily, you're required to review and approve the budget. So I like the idea of more citizen involvement. Policy, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not a policymaker. You guys are. But I like the point that Cody made, that maybe it ought to be 3 and 3, and the mayor said something similar, because that would be a balance, and we would be certain that at least half that committee is of people that actually have a vote. So that what we get coming forward as a recommendation is really going to be coming from people that are paid to do that.
Yeah.
That are elected to do that. Because I don't want to get away from our statutory duty. I mean, ultimately, the 7 of you are going to vote anyway on any budget. But what I'm afraid of is that you'll have a broad brush and you won't really have looked at it because you're relying on the committee. And that committee is really mainly composed of people that were never elected.
Yeah,
through
but
those numbers.
that is not really the role the finance committee has ever played.
No, it's a recommendation anyway.
Yeah.
But
and the finance committee has never really took a deep dive into our budget discussions. That
I think he's just using budget as an example.
Yeah, okay.
As an example of something that, because I think it does talk there about the budget in the ordinance.
I mean, as long as you have Anita there, you're going to be getting city staff, and she's going to be doing 90% of the number crunching anyway to show you. So it's not like there's anything wrong with any of these proposals. But statutorily, we have to.
We can modify the number.
The budget up.
Maybe
The citizens come to you guys and say, you guys
We can
scooped
still
up.
bring something forward if the council.
Not the
thinks
citizens.
It's important.
Well, I guess.
Here'd be my other concern, and and I just thought of this while you guys were talking, if we're going to modify it as an as-need basis for meetings, who's going to, you got to get somebody that's going to have a schedule that would be variable to fit in and all this. And do they want to, if you're only going to meet 4 times a year, if that ends up what it's going to be, does somebody wants to invest their time in 4 times a year?
Yeah.
I would say since it's been up and down, because that's the way it's been since last year when I joined.
Yep.
It was when it was called, then you show up if you could show up. I would say let's keep it as it is right now. Let's create a track record for meetings, and then we know what to offer everybody that would come in.
Keep what as it is?
Keep it as 3 council members, 2 public citizens, and then we establish a track record.
A track record for what?
As far as meetings, being efficient at what we do and productive.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's fine.
And then I would revisit expanding next year, but then we can say we can revisit either expanding or dissolving it. Basically, you're proving your worth.
I don't agree with you, Ron. And we already talked about this, but I mean, whatever you guys want to do. This isn't, I don't have a bone in this fight, and it's not worth it. I just wanted more citizen input.
Yeah, and I agree. I want more citizen input.
Well, you're taking that away.
But they can still attend.
They can't discuss, though.
Well, it's an open meeting.
It's an open meeting. They can discuss, can they?
Sure. They sure can.
I mean, we set an agenda. You know, I suppose if somebody wants
Yeah, input on the agenda.
Yeah.
an agenda item, we can.
Yeah.
Like the airport has a for the good of the order agenda item. We've never had anything like that.
Yeah.
I suppose we could add something to that. If something
You know, I think if this is the route we're going to go, which is pretty disappointing for me, that's fine. Let's just leave it be. We'll call the meetings once a year.
As long as you write it
No. I mean, that.
3 and 3 and that monthly. Just kept it at that, and then we established the track record. If we don't have anything to talk about this month, say for example, I sent out the save the date, and I said if you have any agenda items, let me know. I have no emails with agenda items, and the meeting is, when did we set it for? April.
It's not for
next
a month.
It's next
Yeah.
month because we've already had the one for this month.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll do that. I'll send out a calendar reminder, save the date for every 4th Thursday at 3:30. And if we don't have anything to put on an agenda, we won't meet. But I can still at least connect with somebody to get them the bank statement for review.
Yeah, and if there's more transparency that needs to happen, you know, we publish everything we do. We have our budget that goes out. So if there's other things that we need to address, we'd be happy to do that because I'm not quite sure. I just go back to Simon Semick. Start with why.
I just told
Because,
you.
well, transparency.
We have council members taking on a finance committee and no public members. I wanted to add public members, so one member can't show up. I still have a couple public members at the finance committee meeting. That was the intent. Transparency is important to me. I thought this was simple. It is not. That is the end of the story. I'm sorry my email said I wanted the city to be more transparent, Matt, because I know that's what started all this.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a point of order and maybe a solution to this.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't really believe sitting up here demeaning employees is a good thing either. And I just talked to council, and he said we could make this change. Apparently, everybody wants to keep it the same, and I'm content with that. You're looking for more citizens, and I agree with you on that. What about alternates? In the event that somebody doesn't show up as a citizen, and you have 1 or 2 people that are still interested on partaking, they can at least show up as a voting member in an alternate role. And I'm told by council that this would be legal. That way, if you had 4 or 5 citizens, you could list 1 or 2 or 3, how many more you get, as an alternate, so at least you would be able to maybe maintain the citizen quorum that you would need to get your votes through.
That'd work.
It's a good alternative.
Just as a suggestion.
I am going. Can I retract my discussion item?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm done talking about this. I have nothing I'd like to move forward at this point.
Right. Any other discussion?
Yep. You got what you like. Thank you.
All right. Council updates. Councilmember Shimmers, do you have any updates?
Yeah, I was going to, but due to the ending of this, I'll wait until next time. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Witt.
March 27th, get your breakfast from the Discovery Center. Omelets, I think several of you will be cooking with me, I hope.
I'll be working the parking lot. I don't cook. Omelets will be all over the floor.
Councilmember Seeley, you have anything?
No.
Councilmember Davis? No. Councilmember Oberon?
I'll be cooking omelets too.
Okay. Councilmember Mussman?
No.
Councilmember Kearns?
I'm making pancakes.
All right. Okay. We are adjourned.